Okay, well, I promised you guys we were gonna see what we can do in terms of a Steam Machine competitor build, and we're gonna do that today. We've got a lot to talk about because there's a million different ways you can go when you start talking about the budget at which you have with Steam Machine. It's depressing. The whole scenario, PC is depressing, but we're gonna see what we can do today around that top tier price point, because I don't know, I don't think we can do it very easily in the form factor I wanna do it in the lower price points. So, let's see what we can do. Oh yeah, and we're using our friends at Micro Center, obviously, to get it done. Okay. Again, everyone's kind of doing the whole like, what could you build for the same price now? This is not a new tech concept. I even did this back in November, actually, at the Phoenix store opening, where I built that machine that was supposed to potentially compete, which I guess is kind of still sort of relevant, considering the fact that the prices we chose back then definitely would beat the Steam Machine today. The problem is, prices since November have obviously gone up on so many different things. A lot of other people doing these videos are just showing what PC you could build for the same price point, but I don't think that's apples to apples with the Steam Machine. The Steam Machine was supposed to offer a console type experience in like a living room setting, right? Kind of allowing console gamers to maybe make a transition to PC without it feeling like a PC. So I'm gonna try and replicate that today. So because I'm going small form factor, the prices are going to be higher than they would be with their full size components. So when you start going with like ITX and small form factor coolers and stuff, the prices go up the smaller it gets, which seems counterintuitive, but you shrink anything down, it gets more expensive. So I want to put that out there. But there are some amazing deals, obviously, at Micro Center when it comes to power spec PCs, starting all the way down to like $899, which would still blow the doors off of any Steam box or Steam Machine. I keep calling it Steam box. That was like what the first one was kind of called. So obviously, you guys can check out some of those power spec deals if you want, if you're more interested in that, just buying one and being done. But today we're going to approach it with the build your own approach. Now for the case for this that I chose, I want to go with the Fractal node. I do like the vertical, slim, small form factor of that case. It's very console-like. In fact, it's kind of a similar footprint to like the PS5. It's a little deeper, but it allows you to vertically put it next to a TV or on an entertainment center or something like that. I don't think there's anything else here that's gonna do that like I want. I mean, there is the Terra. The Terra is also pretty expensive and has even, in my opinion, a little more of the compromises you have to make. But we're gonna start with cases this time, where normally I would start with like bundles and then move my way there to a case at the end. Today we're gonna start at the case because that is gonna be our limiting factor on GPU, power supply, and cooler. So we're gonna start there. So this is the Fractal Terra. It's 169 bucks. I really like it though. I mean, a lot of ventilation, obviously all over it. I've already done a build in this before. It's got the little like gull wing doors that open up to give you access to everything on the inside. It's not bad. It's $169. And I did call it the Node. It's actually the Ridge. It's based on the kind of how the Node was. And that's this guy right here. This is what I was saying. This gives me a lot of like a console feel, I think. Obviously when it comes to footprint, it's almost the same depth, slightly longer. Here, I'll line up in the back. There. It's slightly longer than the Terra, but it's quite a bit narrower and taller. So you still have room for a triple slot graphics card, and this whole upper chamber right here is for your graphics card cooling. So it's separated with motherboard on one side, motherboard on the bottom actually, and GPU on the top. So it's gonna use a riser and such. It's got this little fabric right here as part of an intake, but there's no fans in this. Actually, yes there is. There is one fan, it looks like, that's blowing towards the GPU. But I've never actually built in the Ridge. It's one reason why I kind of wanted to approach it from that aspect. The Ridge is only $15 cheaper, but right now, 15 bucks, like every dollar we can save is going to help us maximize our performance. And yes, we are playing the min-maxing game here when it comes to pricing. Okay, we got the Ridge. Now here's the other thing too, form factor, that means ITX. They have ITX boards that are A-series AMD boards starting at $109. Or we can go all the way up to like $500 if we want another board. Clearly, 500 bucks is out of our budget. So we are going to The original parts I had chosen had, I think it was $150 or $160 board in there, but because we're not gonna be doing any overclocking, we're not gonna be doing anything crazy, I don't see any reason why we can't run the cheapest ITX board in this. We just need it to power on and do its job and hopefully have, you know, a decent amount of RAM support, right? So let's take a quick look at the different boards that are available to us, because if I can save 50 bucks on the board, that's perfect. Like from 150 something down to 109, that's a huge chunk towards other stuff that's gonna matter outside the motherboard. Okay, so this is the board I initially had found online that I was gonna use. It's $169 for the B650i Lightning. But they have the A620 for $129. It's an AM5 board, that's a Gigabyte. I have, like I said, no problems with stepping down from a B series to an A series board. We're not doing any overclocking, we're not throwing a high-end CPU in there. It just needs to connect all our crap together, and it's $40 cheaper than the one I had. I must have been on crack the other day when I saw a $109 board, because we just looked at everything, and there is no $109 board. There is an $89 board with AM4 socket if you want to go even cheaper. I just don't want to go with a dead-end product line. That's AM4 right now. AM5 is going to be supported through 2029. I want to know we have an upgrade path if we wanted to later. So we're going to go with that. That saves us 40 bucks. The Gigabyte A620i AX AMD AM5 Mini ITX motherboard. It's ultra durable. Let's test that. You're not supposed to do this in the store, but I can because I'm special. So this is the board. I want to show you. Literally nothing super special about it. Now here's the thing. The drive we're going to go with actually has a heatsink on it because there is no heatsink on this. Now we are going with the Downfire small form factor, our low profile cooler, which would provide a little airflow to that. But that should be out of the way and not interfere with our cooler, hopefully. But I want to get some airflow on the drive. Drives don't need to be cold, but they also do thermally throttle if they get too warm. So I want to have some active airflow, or at least some heat sinking to the drive. Okay, so CPUs. Initially in the cart, I had the 9600X. It's a 6-core, 12-thread part. I considered the 7700X, which is an 8-core, 16-thread part. Now I'm considering the 7600X because it is still a 6-core, 12-thread part. Fairly power efficient, not as power efficient as 9000 series, but it's price efficient. It's $129 versus $159. So look, even though we're not gonna go higher thread count than what's in the Steam machine, we are clearly gonna go higher IPC. We're gonna go higher clock speeds, higher power, but we're gonna get way more performance than what the Steam machine's capable of. So we're gonna go with the 12970 or 7600X. Nice and power efficient because remember, now we're limited by our cooler. So that's why we can't go throw in like a 7800X3D or anything in there because we do have to go with a very low profile cooler. RAM though, we're gonna be doing a single stick of DDR5 16 gig stick. Remember, DDR5 is dual bank, so you still will get dual channel performance out of a single stick. That is simply because of cost. Because I think it's gonna cost like 150 bucks for one stick of 6000 mega transfers G.Skill. I thought it was 150 for a single stick of no frills RAM. It's 204. It is $80, well $75 more than our CPU. Okay, so initially in my cart for storage, I had a 1 terabyte 3D NAND. How do you say that brand? Clev?
Clev, yeah.
Clev, yeah.
It's a Hynix sub-brand.
Right, it's a Hynix product. $169 for a 1 terabyte Gen 3. Fortunately, for $10 more, there's a Crucial P310 Gen 4 that also has a heatsink on it. The other drive I had didn't have a heatsink. So that 10 bucks alone is getting us one gen newer. So we're going from like 3,500 megabytes read speed max to 7,100? Yeah, 7,100. Oh, 71, yeah.
Damn.
So, you know the crazy part about the pricing? There's no lack of them. It's like, there's no lack of them. That's what's crazy about the price. I mean, this isn't a Micro Center problem. They're buying it for just as much as more as it's costing. But it's just so weird to me. There's no, I mean, RAM looks a little sparse. Drives apparently might get that way someday though, they're saying. Okay, so the important part here though is this is not a bundle. And that makes this more relatable than a typical Micro Center build where we're like, hey, if you have access to bundles, look at this stupid deal you can get. Now there are bundles, like I said, that would make this much, not necessarily much cheaper, but for the same price you can get more. And dual channel RAM, although the bundle prices have kind of gone up because RAM prices have still gone up. Still way cheaper than buying it piecemeal. If you don't care about the form factor and you live near a Micro Center or you fly there. So anyway, okay, so we've got our case, we've got our motherboard, we got our drive, we've got our CPU, we got our RAM. Now we need cooler and PSU. This is where there's gonna be a big asterisk on this build because the cheapest SFX power supply that I could find here on the website for Micro Center is $134. Sorry, Micro Center, but if I go to Amazon, so I'm only pointing this out because if you're trying to match this build in some way, there are cheaper places to get an SFX power supply. Micro Center doesn't have a great selection of them. Hey, y'all price match Amazon, right? So it is $124.99 on Amazon. It is $134.99 here. That's the same power supply. Okay, so there it is right there. SP750, more than wattage than we need, gold rated, ATX 3.1, all that's good. And then our cooler. Let's go to the cooler aisle real quick. Okay, so this is the Thermalrite AXP90-X53 Black HTPC/ITX low profile CPU cooler. Yeah, it is $53.99. There's a Noctua here also that has a little bit better cooling capability, but it's also $20 more. I don't really want to spend back the money we've been saving where I don't think I'm going to gain anything. According to an internet search, they claim 150 watt TDP. I have a really hard time believing that. It's only a 92 millimeter fan. You can see we have our hold down bracket right here. Obviously it's elongated so it works with Intel and such, but it's a downfire. So some of that air can make its way to the RAM or the SSD and RAM and such. It's essentially kind of like the same sort of layout as the the Pure Rock LP low profile. But I don't know which actually is going to perform better because that says 100 watt and an online search says this is 150 watt. I'm kind of not really buying the 150 if you want to know the truth. Okay, so all that's left now, it's graphics. Can we see what we're at price-wise? Can we add all this up? So I'm at $934 pre-tax right now. Now I can use pre-tax pricing because the price you see advertised for the Steam machine is also pre-taxed. So I was actually aiming for about $1,400. Yes, I know that includes a 2 terabyte for that, but I think the higher performance with a 1 terabyte, it's a very fair and reasonable trade-off. There's no way we could get a 2 terabyte drive in this and be competitive at all with we have more storage, but we have much lesser performance overall. Kind of like how it happened to Nick when I did our little build challenge. He had a 2 terabyte drive, but then other stuff lacked because of how much money that drive was. So I've got like $465 that I can spend on a GPU. Unfortunately, the price jump between like the $300 cards and up is like $300 to $500 and something. So there's not a whole lot of extra to play with in there. So what I'm gonna see right now is what card we can find that fits in there. I'm gonna go NVIDIA because right now the only AMD cards that are here is like an RX 580, which is like 10 years old, or like a 9060 XT and all that, which is out of our price point, I think. I think going with something like a 5060 Ti would be better performance overall than like a 9060. So that's the play, we have to figure that out. If I can find the cheapest card in that category and it leaves me with some budget, I might look to see like, okay, is there maybe a next step up on the drive? Or that's about the only place I could really add more money. Adding more money won't give me better RAM in this instance. So, all right, let's go see what we got graphics wise. We've got $465 to play with. Okay, so they have a 9060 XT 16 gig for $420. We have $460 left in the budget. There's also 5060 Ti 8 gigs for $359. This is where it's hard because, yeah, we save a bit of money by going with the 8 gig card, but we kind of limit ourselves in terms of future frame buffer. I mean, it's kind of universally accepted at this point that 8 gigs is just not great, but then again, we're also talking about a low mid-tier card that's never going to be doing high frame rate in higher resolutions anyway. So now I have to decide, do I want to save the $60 and throw that into a larger drive, or do I want to go with just the better overall performance. Okay, so doing the typical thing, it's so funny. I have first-hand experience with all of these cards, but the problem is all of the data sets are like jumbled in my head and I can't remember exactly what was what, right? So looking at the charts and looking at other people's charts and stuff. The 9060 XT is about 5 to 7% slower than the 5060 Ti, where frame buffer is not the limiting factor. So many AAA titles now, especially in 1440p, where this will be able to play no problem, where the Steam machine truly is a 1080p machine, can easily exceed 8 gigabytes at AAA titles at that resolution. And then the 1% lows severely suffer on the NVIDIA card with only 8 gigabytes. We can't afford the 16 gig, or that would have been a no-brainer. So with that said, we decided to go ahead and go with the 9060 XT. 10 watts more on power draw, not a big deal. Obviously, we have more than enough headroom on the PSU. So that is our system. Okay, so we're currently at $1,408.92 pre-tax, before the $10 price match for the PSU. Actually, I should check all this stuff on Amazon to know the truth. I'm not even kidding. Do it, they'll match. So anyway, so we're at $1,408, so $1,398. The 2 terabyte model without the controller is $1,349. The 2 terabyte model with the controller is $1,428. You get a little bit of a controller price discount with the bundle because it's $99 normally. It's like $60 or something like that, whatever it is with the package deal. So we're landing like right in between there, which is kind of where I was expecting to land. I think I said $1,400 was my budget I was kind of shooting for here. I came in $1.08 under that. Not bad. Okay, so I guess all that's left to do now is double check all my prices on Amazon real quick and then go back to the studio and build it. Actually, I think this will make a pretty interesting mini segment on its own. Amazon price versus Micro Center price. So the 7600X on Amazon is $146. It's $129.99 here. Micro Center win for sure. Okay, the motherboard here, that is a $129.99 board. So it's a exact match. So our RAM, this will be interesting here, $269.99 on Amazon. So they're still $65 under Amazon pricing. Okay, let's move on to the P310, shall we? See, I could find the one that doesn't have the cooler for $169 on Amazon, but I can't find the one with the heatsink on it. So, okay, graphics card, $448. Wow. Okay, how about the Ridge? It's $144. Ooh. Pablo, you owe me another $10.
Okay.
Look, the moral of the story here is do this. Take the time to do this and do it right in front of the salesman. He'd rather sell it to you at a discount than you walk away and not sell anything at all to match a price. That cooler on Amazon, $22. So they say it has to be sold and shipped. So after a little percussive persuasion, they will honor the price. Because it's sold by Thermalrite. So if it was like sold by so-and-so Joe's Computers, right? And it's drop shipped by Amazon, they wouldn't do that. But because it is Thermalrite and shipping from Amazon, they're gonna price match that. Because $53 down to $22, that's $30 back. So now I'm at $13.58. All right, now we can go ahead and get on out of here. A good $50-$60 cheaper than I was expecting, simply because I took a couple of minutes to check Amazon prices. Don't forget, they will price match. If it's Amazon, an official seller is Amazon or the brand. Okay, so we're back at the studio. We've got our parts, and I'm also in kind of a new little build corner. I've been kind of working out here in B-roll area, but whatever. Yeah, so here's all the parts, $1,357 before tax. Puts us at the 2 terabyte with no controller pricing, but obviously it's a 1 terabyte, so there has to be some give and take in this build. So I'm gonna build it right now. Probably mostly B-roll on that, not a whole lot to talk about in terms of building it. You know, I'm gonna do a quick unboxing of this on camera. I've never actually, that is the most dull knife ever. It bounced off the tape. Wow. I want you guys to see the form factor of this. I know I showed it to you at the store, but yeah, I guess we should bring out the PS5 for comparison maybe, if that's kind of what we're going for. Whoa, mega silica! The silica! Okay, so here we've got the user guide. Here's the base plate thingy I was telling you about. I was like, I know it has a stand. Here's the PS5 we can compare it to right here. So there's a PS5. And then when this is upright, it's gonna be like this. So you can see what I was going for, right? Obviously it's not as, it's a lot deeper, but in terms of width, wherever you could fit a PS5, you could more than likely fit this build. So like I said, this was kind of the form factor I was targeting right here. All right, what else we got in the box here? We got this thingy, which I don't know what that's for. I'll have to look at the manual, I guess. We got a rubber feet, zip ties, screws. All right, let's build it. All right, here it is. It was pretty straightforward to build in, nothing crazy. I do wish we can get a bigger cooler on there while installing Bazzite. We did see it hit 90C, but then it dropped back down to 80. Didn't go in and do any power tuning. I didn't do any power limiting or any of that. I could go in and do some more efficient power tuning with this if I wanted, but I just wanted to see how out of the box experience was. So the only thing this really kind of can't do, but the Steambox can or Steam Machine can, which is power on by the remote. Now we can power down by the remote, but that's the one thing that like console experience is really nice, is that you can just, hold the button of the controller and it'll turn itself on. So I'm gonna do this like a barbarian, like a Neanderthal. Did it turn on?
Yeah,
okay, it's just so quiet. There's no light and it's just so quiet. Anyway, front connectivity, USB-C to a USB 3 and a power button and a combo headphone jack. We won't be using that because of the fact that this is intended to be a, console experience. But as you can see, we're booting into Bazzite. If you want to know how to do that, we actually have another video where we already showed you how to install Bazzite. This just happens to be the Steam, big picture version of Bazzite with AMD graphics card support, because this is an AMD. So if you have an NVIDIA card, you need to grab the NVIDIA one. I'll put a link to the other video in the description of this one if you're curious how to install Bazzite. But there's the Bazzite install, and we have it going right to Steam Big Picture. So this is about as much of a console experience as I think you're gonna personally be able to get. Now you can see right here, the CPU says it's at 91C. So it's at 91C right now because we are installing a game. Now this CPU can technically do 95C, okay? I think technically I would probably go into the OS or the BIOS and probably do a little negative millivolt on there, like a -20 or maybe a -25. That'd probably help a lot. I know I'm not really strengthening my argument of this is a console replacement if you have to go in there and start changing things, but right, it's handling itself. 90C is what they are rated to run at all day long for their life. We as PC enthusiasts don't accept that, but that is what it's rated for. I think if we could actually see the temperatures of your PS5 and your Xbox, they're probably running just as hot. So just wanted to point that out there, but we are limited in the cooler that we could put in this. Anyway, once it's done installing Resident Evil 4, we're just gonna do Cyberpunk 2077 and Resident Evil 4, which are two other games that we did see some of the reviewers doing. The problem was with us reviewers, and I say us loosely because I'm not the most technical reviewer out there. No one ever discloses all of their settings. So we're just gonna show you what our experience is with this system and what it's capable of. There, extra cooling if I wanted it. No, honestly, because it's just a CPU fan with no actual air intakes on the CPU side. That's probably part of what's making it run so warm. But again, this is a 7600X. It's not a crazy high-end, CPU. It can still pull north of 100 watts though. Okay, so I guess we'll start with Resident Evil 4. Sure. I'll be honest, I don't do this often. I'm a keyboard and mouse guy, but I pushed it out of the way just for this anyway. Unable to sync, well that's fine, I haven't even played it yet. So it shows our button layout, cool. Our CPU dropped down to 62C when it wasn't installing anymore. So it's just when it's under that heavy install load, but right now it's at 86, 84, 83, 81. We'll see what it is in game. Now I'm realistically targeting 1440p, but I think 1080p, high settings should be realistic. Okay, so I put it to 1080p and we're gonna prioritize balanced. I think that makes sense for a console attempt here. Okay, so in game right now, we're at 77 or 82C, 133, 135 FPS. I mean, CPU runs a little warm. We could absolutely do some power tuning to that. I think we've seen enough already to know how well this game's gonna run. Okay, so let's go to 1440. We're still at 120 FPS at 1440 now. Oh.
Dang, he's got a kick. Jeez.
All right, Leon, geez.
He freaking kicked the dude.
He kicked his head sideways. Is it capable of 4K then in this title? It's above 60? Oh, what's he cooking? Maybe like a hand in there? Ew. Okay, Resident Evil 4, obviously, this destroys the Steam machine. But we need to go to like Cyberpunk or something like that to really see what a difficult title is to run. But Cyberpunk has the Steam Deck preset, which I'll start with. But I want to see just how good or bad it is. I want to say this, I've never, ever used Steam Big Picture before. Or a controller with Steam, but getting in and out of things so far has been pretty intuitive. Okay, obviously the Steam Deck preset is a bit too conservative. Okay, now it's down to like 128, 130. Doesn't look super great, because I think it's FSRing right now. So I think we can tune this to be a lot better though, but 140 FPS is definitely good. I didn't mean to do that. Wrong button. Oh, I didn't mean to do that either. Hold on. I don't use controller very often. Now we're at 1080p high. Default settings, we're not changing anything. Just set the preset to high. And we're getting 121 FPS in 1080p with FSR 2.1, I believe it is. Yeah, FSR 2.1, which for some reason looks better than 3.0 in this title. We look at 3.0 and it gets worse, like fuzzier, which is kind of crazy. So I'm gonna go over to balance right now and see what happens. 142 FPS. Then again, I'm kind of leaving the city, so. Yeah, 130, 127. Ah! Now let's try ray tracing. Ray tracing low. So now we're into the, now we're under 100 finally, under 90, 85, 87. 100 over here. So yeah, I think this is like a ray tracing off type of title as far as I'm concerned. We'll go high with resolution scaling off, still getting 100 FPS. Okay, so we're still at 100 FPS in native 1080p in high. Steam Machine didn't have a prayer of doing that. One last test right here, just for the lulz. It's still way over 60. It's at 79 FPS. I wasn't looking where I was going. Okay, it's time to actually ditch this car now. Okay, I think it's safe to say that our build for the same money, minus the controller, or I should say minus the 2 terabytes, it's a 1 terabyte, is an infinitely better deal than the Steam Machine. So, this is where you guys sign off down below. How do you feel about this build? I mean, I'm not kidding. Micro Center said they saw a huge uptick in SFX or SFF part sales since the Steam Machine launched. And I think it's because a lot of people were like, oh, I want a small form factor PC, it seems neat. And then they went, well, for that kind of money, I could just build one. And they literally did. Yeah, obviously this lacks some of the controller functionality, like you can't turn volume up and down, which honestly, I've always just used my TV remote. You know, this is running Linux, obviously. So if I go to power and then switch to desktop mode, it's gonna take me out of Steam Big Picture. And then it's just gonna be Bazzite. So you literally have all the amazingness of Bazzite, full OS there, free OS, and the Steam Big Picture, which is very much like the Steam Machine. So this is what I think is a better spend on that money. Yes, we got a reservation for a 512 with controller. I want the Steam controller. I haven't gotten a reservation for that yet, like I've tried. So I do need to put it head to head. And I'm thinking now with my CNC milling and stuff, I might try and do a fully self-contained water loop inside that thing. That might be really tough, but since I can mill acrylic and all that, I can make everything distroed where I want and how I want and see if I can't do a tiny little self-contained custom water-cooled loop in that. Got to do something with it to make it interesting, but I want to do direct comparisons once I get my hands on it. So there you go. It's Linux And it's the same price as the 2 terabyte for 1 terabyte, which I still think I'd rather have the better performance and half the storage. I don't think you can argue with how good this is. It checks all the boxes. It's SFF build, doesn't take a lot of space, can absolutely be treated like a console, except for you have to get up and push the power button, which sort of sucks. And it's not Windows. So how can you hate it? Well, you can hate the prices because that's fair, but. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks to Micro Center for sponsoring this video. They were like, sure, have at it. See if you can build a Steam Machine comparison. And I think I did a pretty good job of this. Just wish the cooler was a little better. There is a taller, beefier Noctua cooler that we could have gotten, but it was like $70. With the price match, before the price match, it was like a $20 more expensive cooler. After the price match, with this being a $22 cooler, I don't know if I would have spent the extra 50 bucks. The CPU can handle the temps it's seeing all day long every day. I would rather go in there and try to do some millivolt offset tuning to the power first, rather than beefing up the cooler. All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you in the next one.